Let's get salty!
Hey everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and the Titans meta continues to evolve quite a lot since the last week. It's almost been a week since it's been out, and I thought I would add 5 more decks to our last video as well as update a bunch of the deck lists we recommended last time. Cut out Wild, because Wild things aren't evolving exactly all that much, and give you guys decks that you can take and reasonably expect to climb, whether it be silver, gold, platinum, diamond, or legend for the very first time. And there's a lot of class representation here with only warrior, paladin, and druid being left off, but honestly you could take pure paladin and have a lot of success. Ramp druid you could probably scam as well. And warrior, yeah, warrior is still, well, we talked about it yesterday, not in the best spot. So let's go over those decks, and as a friendly reminder, if you enjoy the content on the channel, if you feel like I've earned your subscription, please hit that sub button down below. Give the video a like, it helps us out a ton. As well as always, deck codes are in the description below, and there's like a link to the Donkey site if you need to click that for mobile uses. The big winner of Titans so far continues to be Mech Rogue. By the way, these are ordered mostly in power levels, so the first decks will be the strongest, the last decks will be the more fringe options, but these are all competitive decks. So starting off, we have, Mech Rogue, the big winner. A lot of people are complaining about it, and I do think it is one of the decks that will most likely to get hit in a balance patch, which, by the way, we should expect either probably next week. There's usually a balance patch within 2 weeks of an expansion launch. We'll talk about that in a future video, but I thought I'd bring that up. But yes, this deck is carried very hard by cards like Mimiron, which just gives you a bunch of gadgets. You play mechs, really gross. Lab Constructor, you slap it onto anything, it copies itself, it's obscene. Or you just put magnetics onto this, in particular just curving into Spider can be really solid. But you have all these cheat mechs, you cheat a lot of mana, whether it be with prep or serrated bone spike, and try and scam the game early. You have a little bit of late game in here with like Inni, Ziliax, and the new Prime, or the new Titan. I keep calling them Primes because it has Prime in the name. It's the Titan, Voltron. It is very much a scam deck. You're gonna win really quick, or you're not going to win quick. You're gonna have your board answered and lose out. But overall, especially at lower ranks, this wins extremely fast. You're gonna have a lot of quick games, and even at the highest of legend, it still has a really good win rate. And it's relatively cheap outside of the 2 new legendaries and all that, of course, and I guess the epic in Lab Recruiter and Inni. So it's not that cheap. Whatever. I said what I said, but this deck is doing really darn well, as you've probably seen on the ladder. Another variant of it is called Big Rogue, but really it's just Mech Rogue with a big scam. You'll note, very similar to the prior package, a lot of cheap mechs. You got the mana cheat package in here of Prep and Bone Spike, but basically the main difference is you have Scourge, Illusionist, the 4-mana 4/4 epic. Death Rattle, add a 4/4 copy of another Death Rattle minion to your hand. It costs 4 less, and you can hit either Mothership, which has Rush, and you can slap magnetics onto this, or Containment Unit, which also has magnetic and gives you summons a random 8-cost minion, and these become, 4 less, right? They become very cheap. You can slap it onto another mech, do really gross stuff. It doesn't seem to be quite as consistent as the other Mech Rogue, but it's pretty close and has bigger scams to go with it. So if you're looking for a different type of spice of Mech Rogue in your life, well, Big Rogue might just be the way to go. The other deck, this one just keeps changing all the time, is Sith Mage, the one of the other top decks, of course, built around Sif, the legendary minion that has spell damage +1 and is improved by each spell school you play this game. You have the new card in here like Wisdom of Narganon to draw cards for like 0 mana, and it's similar to the the Burn Mage shell with the weapon and all your cheap minions and burn infinite value in Infinitize. But I will note, there are versions that run Elemental Inspiration. You could cut out like Lady Nazjar. You don't have that card, maybe you have Inspiration. You could do that. Nazjar's just in there mostly for mana cheat, mostly to make the combo a little bit more consistent. Or if you have Narganon, you can throw that in there too. There are tons of different builds. They're all doing really well, but I thought I would go with the more looks like refined combo version, but you can go in a number of ways with this deck. Feel free to alter those type of cards if you're feeling like that's required, or add like another star power to really try and deal with those pesky mechs. Next, we have the other really top tier deck, and then we'll start going into the not as top tier decks, but really good decks. Hound Hunter. You guys know the deal on Hound Hunter. It's all about, you know, Hollow Hound and basically buffing things up with Lorthamar and cheating, you know, your beast back with Stranglethorn Harder, OTKing your opponent with Faithful Companions into King Crush. You have all your incredible early game, including the new Awakening Tremors, which is just a lot of, you know, 3 1-mana 4/1s. Really hard to deal with all of that. You have Titan Forge Traps, one of the best performing new cards in the entire set. Observer of Myths can just scam the early game as well. And of course, Agrimar. I'm still waiting on that diamond version. I'm not crafting it golden, okay? Agrimar, new Titan, which as well, performing extremely well, and they're even trying out Speaker Stomper to try and lock out those OTK decks with some spell disruption. It has tradable, you can get rid of it. It's just a very spell heavy meta, at least a higher rank, so that's why some people are electing to run this. You could put some other cards in there, maybe another zombies, maybe another whatever you want, right? Like, you don't have to run that, but overall, really well performing deck, and Hunter is another probable nerf target down the road, as well as I think Mage. I think these 3 top classes here are all very likely to get nerfed at some point, so be aware of that if you're thinking about crafting some of these decks. And then Secret Mage, I've been playing wild. Secret Hunter has been doing really well. It's got a lot of really good cards from the new set, like Starstrom Bow, which, you know, you can cheat out for pretty darn cheap, and it has 6 attack on it. Agrimar as well, which can theoretically buff this weapon up if you lost your Tashalok, as well, of course, Titan Forge Traps, super solid card, Awakening Tremors. You see the new cards in here, very similar, but yeah, you just cheat out a bunch of secrets, you play a lot of secrets, be aggressive, go face, try and lock the game out. You got Polygon Curve, which can be pretty good, and Hydrolodon for a little bit of late game. The card's just broken, so why not run it, right? Like, yeah, so Secret Hunter, another deck performing pretty well. Control Priest, if you really want to shut down those Mech Rogues in particular, this is the deck to go with. I have Theo's list here, which has the new card Ignis. There are some other new cards in here, not a lot, but like Creation Protocol, which is an insane value generator, giving you possibly, you know, like 3 Amanthuls or more if you play 2 of them, right? You forge it, get copies of minions from your deck, Amanthul, Behemoth. It's very similar to the prior build we saw before Titans came out with just a few new cards, but it's a good deck, and it's one of the only valid control options out there, so I definitely have to recommend it. Relic Demon Hunter, again, another deck that hasn't changed a lot, mostly has like 2 new cards. That's basically it. Jotun, which gives you just free value and removal, and Relics, it's pretty darn gross, although really bad against Plague Death Knight if you face that. My first game playing this card, I faced a Plague Death Knight and kept recasting their plagues and still won because the deck's pretty broken. As well, of course, Argus, the Emerald Star, the new Titan, which is really good at 0 mana. Who would have guessed? But yeah, get a lot of big relics, cheat a bunch of mana, have just basically unanswerable value from almost any deck in the game. It's pretty darn good. Nature Shaman still is doing okay. The builds keep changing up, keep getting more refined. The new 4-mana Epic, not even in the deck. It's too slow to get those stats in City of Totemic Evidence, and the Carving Chisel used to infuse this, get 4 totems, bioluminescence those, and then blast your opponent to death. You have the new Titan, which is just safe craft no matter what shaman deck you want to play. Golganeth, utterly broken card, and yeah, draw through your deck, try and kill your opponent, and very non-interactive gameplay, all fueled by Flash of Lightning, which makes your nature spells cost 1 less in the following turn. Pretty darn good deck. Definitely not an easy one to play, but if you're into those really combo style decks, you're gonna have some fun. Next we have the Undead Warlock, which got a bunch of good tools. This expansion is still doing all right. It's not a top tier deck, but it's still competitive. You can still climb with it, and it's all, you know, you got the new cool tool. It's in the thumbnail. Sargeras, the Destroyer. He got us a bunch of packs. He could probably help you get some ranks. You'll note that the lists have been evolving. I went with a more Death Rattle version, which has the new Ravenous Kraken, which you can use with like Shallow Grave to get more copies of minions. You have Chaotic Consumption, which is an insane removal tool, but like the best new card by far. Forge of Wills, choosing a friendly minion, getting that stats in Rush is incredible, making it so when you just play your Amorphous Slime, you can still defend yourself, including like opposing Anubisath, the 4 mana 7/7. You got Loken in here, as well as Symphony of Sins. Definitely not a cheap deck. Definitely only played if you got the majority of cards, and it's not one of the best decks out there, but it's still very competitive and pretty darn fun to play. And the last one, definitely the least competitive, but I'll put the most updated Plague Death Knight list, which has kept changing. It's getting a bit more greedy to try and survive longer to get your opponent to draw those plagues. Still has Magathit in there for your card draw, but you'll notice you have cards like Watcher of the Sun, you have Necrotic Mortician for some more value, Astalor, of course, but even cards like Sylvanas, the Prison of Yogg-Saron in there to try and just get you more games, more stuff to do, and Ignis. Even though you don't have a lot of Forge in the deck, Ignis is just a valuable tool. That weapon can be additional reach, it can be draw, it could be board presence, just an incredibly good card. Definitely the lowest recommendation on my list, but if you're really trying to make Plague Death Knight work, this is probably the best way to go. Just always mulligan for Helia. This is the best card of the deck, and hopefully your opponents will actually draw some Plague. So that's the most updated lists I've got for you guys. Don't normally do this many deck list videos this early, but man, the meta has been changing, and I want you guys to have the best options out there, and hopefully you have some success. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day, and stay salty, my friends.